can be
Well,
overwhelming.
just moving for us, for a healthy
For,
adult, is a big stressor, right? It's one of the most
yes,
stressful things you can go through.
it
So,
100% it
yeah.
is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Aligning Life and Wealth series. We're making money mean more by aligning it with aspects of life that matter most. We're interviewing what I like to call our life experts, from family relationships to health to home security. Their services have a great impact on the lives of many. I'm Michael Conway, President and CEO of Conway Wealth, and today I'm excited to introduce to you Sam van Kalkeren, Director of Aging Services at Intent Clinical. Sam, it's wonderful to have you. Great to see you.
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me. I'm so happy we're talking about this topic. I think it affects everyone. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet. Can you tell us a little bit, Sam, about Intent Clinical and the services you provide to older adults? Let's start there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So Intent Clinical used to be O'Connor Professional Group. We've been around for over 13 years now. Our headquarters are in Boston, but we work with clients nationwide. And we're a concierge firm, so we specialize in behavioral health issues, addiction, substance use, dementia, neurocognitive disorders, eating disorders, autism, and neurodiversity. And we help families in crisis. We have about 400 team members nationwide, so we work with clients all over the U.S. And we will do as much as coordinate care. We provide direct support to clients. We'll help identify resources, and then we'll create and implement state-of-the-art treatment plans to help individuals and families that are suffering or who have this need. And then for older adults, we do all of that. But then we have care management services. So care manager is kind of like a quarterback of care, where we'll go in, we'll assess the needs of the individual and the family, and then we will create a plan, and we're problem solvers, and we'll create solutions to help meet those plans.
Sure.
Our tagline is focus care in life's most uncertain times, and that's who we are. We'll come in and support the individuals and families.
Yeah, it's amazing. I would imagine our clients, this is a tremendous resource because, well, you know the need, but on the other side of this, when you're noticing something happening with a loved one, it's, wow, something's going on here. Mm-hmm. How do we handle it? And yeah, it's got to be very difficult. Can you tell us a little bit about your professional background and what led Intent Clinical to support older adults?
Yeah. So I am a registered nurse. I've been practicing as a nurse for about 14 years now. I started my career off working in inpatient psychiatric settings. Beyond that, I'm also a certified care manager. I'm a certified dementia practitioner and a certified Alzheimer's disease and dementia care trainer. It's a tongue twister if you say that quickly 5 times. But really, I'm there. I can work with families, individuals suffering from mental health issues or neurocognitive disorders. I joined Intent Clinical from Tufts Medical Center in Boston. I was the director of the nurse director of the psych department there. And Intent Clinical has always worked with older adults. Obviously, we support individuals with the illnesses I described earlier. But more and more, we are seeing clients with some cognitive impairments developing dementia symptoms and other neurocognitive disorders. And with these illnesses, a lot of the times there's a behavioral health component to it. So whether it's depression, anxiety, people will have hallucinations or delusions. And it could be the first time that the individual and the family is trying to navigate the behavioral health system. And it's hard to navigate. And the behavioral health system and the medical system are very broken, and they don't collaborate very well. So Intent Clinical, we saw our clients having this need, and we said, let's move into this area to support them. And we brought on clinicians that can support these clients.
So if a family member or someone notices a family member starting to have some issues, how does Intent come in with assessments? So how do you handle that? If you could walk us through.
Of course. So there are several different ways that we can help. And when we're talking about assessments, so we do have a neuropsychologist on our team, and we have a team of psychologists that can come in and do a neuropsych evaluations or cognitive assessments on individuals. And a lot of times, what we find is that someone who needs a neuropsych evaluation or some cognitive assessments beyond what can be done at the primary care physician's office, there might be a 6-month or a year wait list to get these tests done. And obviously, when you're dealing with an illness like this, time is so important. So you don't want to wait to get answers. So our team can go into the home to perform these evaluations. They'll make recommendations for follow-up tests and whatever is needed. And then we also have clinical professionals, so registered nurses. We have social workers, occupational therapists. We can go into the home. So we'll do home safety assessments. So say the goal is of an individual, maybe they have some mild cognitive impairment or dementia, but they want to stay in their home. We'll go in to make sure it's safe, to make recommendations on any modifications that should be made.
Can you give us an example of that? What does that mean? Because I wouldn't think of cognitive decline, and maybe I obviously don't know the space, but in conjunction with physical decline. So talk about that. What is it?
Yeah. So an interesting fact, I did a presentation not too long ago about aging in place, because a lot of people want to stay in their homes as they age. They don't want to move to a senior living community, but actually only 10% of homes in the US are age ready, meaning that if, say, my goal was to stay in my home until I passed away, and maybe I live into my 90s, but maybe my grip strength is not the same. So let's look at the door handles. Is it a doorknob or is it a lever style door handle that is easier to access? It's about, accessibility. Is the bedroom is there a bedroom on the first floor? Is there a bathroom on the first floor? And then, what does the surrounding outside environment look like? Is it easy to get to resources? And we'll look at, are there stairs to go up into the home, or should there be a ramp? Things like that. Yeah. So we'll do those assessments, and we'll meet with the individual and the family to identify what their goals are, what their needs are, and then we make recommendations based on the information that we learn. And obviously, safety is the number one priority. And there's a lot of factors that come into someone staying in their home with a neurocognitive disorder, or even if they have no issues, but they want to stay in their home. We've got to look at community and resources that they have. Is it still safe for them to drive? How are they going to get meals and cook their meals and things like that? So there's a lot of planning that goes into this, and we kind of break it all down for the individual and families, and we create a roadmap for them.
How, Sam, do you then decide whether the patient stays in the home or goes into some type of assisted living? Like when and how do you help families navigate that? That's got to be a pretty big deal. I want to stay, but it's not safe. It's just not conducive, or the family can't support it. How do you handle that?
Yeah. So that's a big topic. And a lot of times adult children will reach out to us and they'll say that, my mom is slipping cognitively. She can't manage the home. We need to move her to a senior living community, like an assisted living environment. And my first question is, well, what does mom want? Because I think we really need to protect the autonomy of the individual, of the older adults, and they need to be part of the conversation. And when maybe someone has dementia or Alzheimer's and they are living at home, but now it's time they do need to move into a senior living, like a memory care, assisted living, because it's not safe and they need the extra support. That can be really challenging for the individual. And there's something known as transfer stress, transfer trauma, where you're relocating an individual where they may have spent the last 20 years of their life and they think that this is their home, and now you're transplanting them into a new environment. It can be overwhelming.
Just moving for a healthy adult is a big stressor, right? It's one of the most stressful things you can go through.
100%, it is. Yeah. And it's a lot of planning. It's stressful. But when we're, looking at should someone move or not, kind of the rule of thumb is if someone needs more than 40 hours of care, then you should really look at moving into a more supportive environment, because that's more like financially better for the individual, because it can get expensive to pay for private care. So you look at that factor, but then it's also, if someone has the means to live at home and they have these care needs, then you needed someone to help you navigate that and identify what services need to come in, and help kind of manage all that care.
Got it. Sam, what would you say is the biggest misconception people have about doing caring for older people? What's the one thing we all get wrong on this side?
So to answer this in two different ways, I think the one issue that we need to deal with is ageism. So ageism in the US is prevalent. It's the last form of socially accepted prejudice, and we're surrounded by it everywhere.
Sure.
We don't want to talk about aging. We don't want to plan for it. Many people don't. So I'm going to generalize that, we're healthy now. We don't want to look forward when we may need extra support, or our bodies are failing us. It's not fun to think about. Death is not fun to think about. But we need to normalize those conversations so it's a better experience for everyone. I'm being bombarded with this commercial about crepey skin, and it's this magical lotion that, this woman says, I used to hate the skin on my neck because it was so crepey. Now I've used this lotion. I love my skin. It's like, well, let's celebrate this. Like, who cares about this? Like, you're beautiful. Like, this is, you're making it this far. Yeah.
Sure.
And then, with aging, so there's two types of ageism. So we have prescriptive ageism and we have descriptive. So prescriptive is how we think older adults should behave. So in society, we think that they should be wise, but at the same time, they need to make way for the younger generation, and they just need to fade away into the background. And that creates a whole other issue for these older adults. And then there's the descriptive beliefs, and these are beliefs about how older adults are. So typically we think older adults are weak, they're frail, they're fragile, they're slow. And from someone who works with older adults and has been working with this population for a long time, when you've seen one 80-year-old, you've seen one 80-year-old. So I've seen an 80-year-old who has no physical strength, and they're a two-person assist, meaning they need two people to help them even stand up and move. And then I've seen 80-year-olds who are running marathons and lifting weights and just living life.
I've seen, yes, you see a lot of that now. As we were getting older, people are working out more and continued with strength training and all of that. So yeah.
Yeah. And to finally, like, kind of answer the second part of the other part that I was going to answer was, we need to listen to the voices of the older adults and have them be part of the conversation. Because so many times when we hear the word dementia or Alzheimer's, we want to just swoop in and take control, to help support our loved one or older adults. But we really need to listen to them and what they want.
So as it ties back to that, what are the top things we should consider when it comes to managing the care of aging parents?
Mm-hmm. I think the first thing to remember is that you're not alone. It can be very overwhelming and daunting. And then you go on the internet, you look, for different resources, but you can get bombarded. Go to trust resources like the Alzheimer's Association. They'll have a lot of local resources listed for support groups, memory cafes, and also divide and conquer. If you're lucky that you have a partner, or you have siblings, or there's friends involved, divide up the tasks. So maybe, for me, I'm very organized, and obviously I have the medical background, so I could manage doctor's appointments. I could, review medications, make sure that that's all in line. And then my sister, she's better with finances, so she could be doing the bill pay and do all that. And typically we see it falls on one individual, and that's hard. So use your, resources. Have conversations with your loved one. Know what their wishes are, like with your parents or older adult loved one. How do they see themselves aging? Do they want to stay at home? And what does that look like? And if they have, needs, or as medical needs, then look at those resources that need to come in, and can they afford it? And if they can't, what are the other options? But we need to have these conversations. because God forbid something happens and now the adult child has to make decisions that they don't know what the wishes of their parent, and that can be really hard for that adult child.
Sure.
And my last piece of advice, and I suggest this for anyone that I work with, even younger generations, is have a grab and go binder, a kind of a grab and go emergency binder. So you'll have a list of all your emergency contacts in there with their phone numbers and contact information. If you have a list of all your medications that you're on, when they've started, when they've stopped, a list of your providers, insurance information, and a copy of all your legal paperwork. That way, if a crisis or emergency happens, you have everything at your fingertips and you're not scrambling to find that information, because you are going to need to share that information at some point. So if you have it all together, it's easy and you've saved precious time.
Yeah. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I was telling you in prep for this, I was watching a television show last night where the female lead was talking to her mom, her probably elderly mom, on the phone. And it was one thing after another. Was, no, mom, remember we moved and we live in a different place and there were things, and she was trying to figure out how to navigate it. So it was just timely to see that on the screen, right, before our conversation. But it's what a lot of us are out here dealing with, right? It's a fairly common. We're going to slip in some ways as we get older. So this is great stuff. What would you say, Sam, is your number one piece of advice from a caregiver perspective to maintain healthy family relationships when coping with dementia or memory loss of a loved one, right? What's this? What is the big takeaway you want us to hear?
I think number one is self-care. So caregiver burnout is real, and it's hard to deal with. And talking about the TV show that you watched last night. So my grandmother just started hospice care, and she has vascular dementia, and she doesn't live close by, but I was lucky enough last week to go visit her and spend about 6-7 hours with her. And when I went into her room, she didn't know who I was. She thought I was her son, so my uncle. And I went with it, knowing my background and how you communicate with people with this illness. And then about every 10 minutes, she would ask what month it was and what day it was without fail. And I would just remind, it's November. I tell her what the date was, and she'd be surprised. And then she'd ask again, but I would answer that question as if it was the first time that she was asking me that. And so, when families are dealing with this, I say, get educated, learn how to communicate with your loved one. Because, I recently did an assessment, and this woman has dementia, struggling remembering details, but her loved ones, obviously they care about her, but they kept saying, don't you remember? I told you this, we talked about this. And it was just over and over. And they were getting upset. She was getting upset. And so I kind of had to redirect the conversation. And then later on, let them know that she's in brain failure and she doesn't remember having this conversation. And that can be really challenging for family members to, first of all, it can get annoying if they keep asking the same question over and over and over. It's frustrating because okay, this is what's needed, but they're not understanding or comprehending that. But you've got to live that person's reality. So I say self-care, get educated. You're not alone, and engage with a care manager to help navigate these challenges and have that support.
And it's got to be frustrating and aggravating but I guess answering their questions is the right thing to do there, right?
Yeah. And we call it fiblets. So basically, it's living their reality. It's lying, but it's not lying because again, they're not processing the information and their brain's not working. And a prime example I like to share is if a spouse has passed away, so an individual may ask, where's my husband? And they would say, if you say, oh, he passed away, that would be dramatic for that individual. She would probably start crying and she would relive that trauma. So you've got to say, oh, he's at the grocery store, he'll be back shortly. And then you redirect. And it's not lying, but it's you're preventing that trauma because she thinks that her husband's coming home. And yeah.
In that moment, right. It's all relived.
Yes.
Again. Got it. All right. Awesome. Well, this has been very helpful. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining the Aligning Life and Wealth series and for the impact you're creating by allowing people to best align their life and wealth through navigating family dynamics with aging loved ones. You can find this video with the rest of our Aligning Life and Wealth series on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, and Facebook. Sam, thanks a million for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.